Hello, and welcome back to lesson number 3, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a quick read, so today, because I skipped yesterday, I gotta make up for it. So I'm gonna read lesson 3. I better turn off the volume. Lesson 3 and half of lesson 4. So, without further ado, we'll get into it. And sorry about the background. This is what we call real-world professional offices that have not been designed by a professional architect. Well, maybe it was designed by an architect, but to a very minimum spec standard. You can tell by everything, I guess. Yeah, it's not one of those sexy YouTube offices that you see in some of your favorite creators. But that's not why we're here. We're here for this. So, let's get into lesson 3, Mind Your Own Business. Okay, here we go. Start with a quote at the beginning. The rich focus on their asset columns while everyone else focuses on their income statements. All right, here we go with another fun accent. In 1974, Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, was asked to speak at the MBA class at the University of Texas at Austin. A friend of mine was a student at the MBA class. After a powerful and inspiring talk, the class adjourned, and the students asked Ray if he would join them at their favorite hangout to have a few beers. Ray graciously accepted. "What business am I in?" Ray asked once the group had all their beers in hand. Everyone laughed. My friend said most of the MBA students thought Ray was just fooling around. No one answered, so Ray asked again, "What business do you think I am in?" The students laughed again, and finally one brave soul yelled out, "Ray, who in the world doesn't know that you're in the hamburger business?" Ray chuckled. "That's what I thought you'd say." He paused and then quickly added, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate." As my friend tells the story, Ray spent a good amount of time explaining his viewpoint. In his business plan, Ray knew that the primary business focus was to sell hamburger franchises, but what he never lost sight of was the location of each franchise. He knew that the land and its location were the most significant factors in the success of each franchise. Basically, the person who bought the franchise was also buying the real estate under the franchise for Ray Kroc's organization. Today, McDonald's is the largest single owner of real estate in the world, owning even more than the Catholic Church. McDonald's owns some of the most valuable intersections and street corners in America and around the globe. My friend considers this as one of the most important lessons in his life. Today, he owns a car wash, but his business is the real estate under those car washes. The previous chapter presented diagrams illustrating that most people work for everyone but themselves. They work first for the owners of the company, then for the government through taxes, and then finally for the bank that owns their mortgage. When I was a young boy, we did not have a McDonald's nearby, yet my rich dad was responsible for teaching Mike and me the same lesson that Ray Kroc talked about at the University of Texas. It is secret number 3 of the rich. That secret is mind your own business. Financial struggle is often directly the result of people working all their lives for someone else. Many people simply have nothing at the end of their working days to show for their efforts. Our current educational system focuses on preparing today's youth to get good jobs by developing scholastic skills. Their lives will revolve around wages or, as described earlier, their income column. Many students will study further to become engineers, scientists, cooks, police officers, artists, writers, and so on. These professional skills allow them to enter the workforce and earn and work for money. But there's a big difference between your profession and your business. Often I ask people, "What is your business?" And they will say, "Oh, I'm a banker." And then I'll ask them if they own a bank, and they usually respond, "No, I work there." In that instance, they have confused their profession with their business. Their profession may be a banker, but they still need their own business. A problem with school is that you often become what you study. So if you study cooking, you become a chef. If you study the law, you become an attorney. If you study auto mechanics, that makes you a mechanic. The mistake in becoming what you study is that too many people forget to mind their business. They spend their lives minding someone else's business and making that person rich. To become financially secure, a person needs to mind their own business. Your business revolves around your asset column, not your income column. As stated earlier, the number one rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability, and to buy assets. The rich focus on their asset column, while everyone else focuses on their income statements. That is why we hear so often, quote, "I need a raise," or, quote, "if only I had a promotion," or, quote, "I'm going back to school to get more training so I can get a better job," or, quote, "I'm going to work overtime," or, quote, "maybe I can get a second job." In some circles, these are sensible ideas, but you are still not minding your own business. These ideas all still focus on the income column and only help a person become more financially secure if the additional money is used to purchase income-generating assets. The primary reason that the majority of poor and middle class are fiscally conservative, which means I can't afford to take risks, is that they have no financial foundation. They have to cling to their jobs and play it safe. When downsizing became the in thing to do, millions of workers found out their largest so-called asset, their home, was eating them alive. Their asset was costing them money every month. Their car, their other asset, was eating them alive. The golf clubs in the garage that cost $1,000 were not worth $1,000 anymore. Without job security, they had nothing to fall back on. What they thought were assets could not help them survive in a time of financial crisis. I assumed most of us has filled out a credit application to buy a house or a car. It is always interesting to look at the, quote, net worth, unquote, section because of what is accepted banking and accounting practices allow a person to count as assets. One day, when I wanted a loan, my financial position did not look too good. So I added my new golf clubs, my art collection, books, electronics, Armani suits, wristwatches, shoes, and other personal effects to boost the number in the asset column. But I was turned down because I had too much invested in real estate. The loan committee didn't like that I made so much money from rent. They wanted to know why I did not have a normal job with a salary. They did not question the Armani suits, golf clubs, or art collection. Life is sometimes tough when you do not fit into the standard profile. I cringe every time I hear someone say to me that their net worth is $1 million, or $100,000, or whatever. One of the main reasons net worth is not accurate is simply because the moment you begin selling your assets, you are taxed for any gains. So many people have put themselves in deep financial trouble when they run short of income. To raise cash, they sell their assets, but their personal assets can generally be sold for only a fraction of the value that is listed on their personal balance sheet. Or, if there is a gain on the sale of assets, they are taxed on the gain. So again, the government takes its share, thus reducing the amount available to help out with debt. That is why I say someone's net worth is often worth less than they think. Start minding your own business. Keep your daytime job, but start buying real assets, not liabilities or personal effects that have no real value once you get them home. A new car loses nearly 25% of the price you pay for it the moment you drive it off the lot. It is not a true asset even if your banker lets you list it as one. My $400 new titanium driver was worth $150 the moment I teed off. Keep expenses low, reduce liabilities, and diligently build a base of solid assets. For young people who have not left home yet, it is important for parents to teach them the difference between an asset and liability. Get them to start building a solid asset column before they leave home. Get married, buy a house, have kids, and get stuck in a risky financial position, clinging to a job and buying everything on credit. I see so many young couples who get married and trap themselves into a lifestyle that would not let them get out of debt for most of their working years. For many people, just as the last child leaves home, the parents realize they have not adequately prepared for retirement and begin to scramble to put some money away. Then their own parents become ill and they find themselves with new responsibilities. So what kind of assets am I suggesting that you and your children acquire? In my world, real assets fall into the following categories. Businesses that do not require my presence. I own them, but they're managed or run by other people. If I have to work there, it's not a business, it becomes my job. Stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate, notes such as IOUs or personal loans, royalties from intellectual properties such as music, scripts, and patents, and anything that else has value, produces income or appreciates, and has a ready market, like art or exotic cars. As a young boy, my educated dad encouraged me to find a safe job, but my rich dad encouraged me to begin acquiring assets that I loved. If you don't love it, you won't take care of it. I collect real estate simply because I love buildings and land. I love shopping for them, and I could be looking at them all day long. When problems arise, the problems aren't always so bad that it changes my love for real estate. For people who hate real estate, they shouldn't buy it. I also love stocks of small companies, especially startups, because I am an entrepreneur, not a corporate person. In my early years, I worked at large organizations such as Standard Oil of California, the U.S. Marine Corps, and Xerox Corporation. I enjoyed my time with these organizations and have fond memories, but I know deep down I am not a company man. I like starting companies, not running them. So my stock buys are usually of small companies. Sometimes I even start the company and take it public. Fortunes are made in new stock issues, and I love the game. Many people are afraid of small cap companies and call them risky, and they are. But that risk is diminished if you love what you invest in, understand it, and know the game. With small companies, my investment strategy is to be out of the stock in a year. On the other hand, my real estate strategy is to start small and keep trading up for bigger properties and therefore delay paying taxes on the gain. This allows the value to increase dramatically. I generally hold real estate less than 7 years. For years, even while I was in the Marine Corps and Xerox, I did what my rich dad recommended. I kept my day job but still minded my own business. I was active in my asset column trading real estate and small stocks. Rich Dad always stressed the importance of financial literacy. The better I was understanding the accounting and cash management, the better I would be analyzing investments and eventually starting and building my own company. I don't encourage anyone to start a company unless they really want to. Knowing what I know about running a company, I wouldn't wish that task on anyone. There are times when people can't find employment and starting a company seems like the best solution. But the odds are against success. 9 out of 10 companies fail in 5 years. Of those that survive the first 5 years, 9 out of every 10 of those eventually fail as well. So only if you really have the desire to own your own company do I recommend it. Otherwise, keep your day job and mind your own business. When I say mind your own business, I mean to build and keep your asset column strong. Once a dollar goes into it, never let it come out. Think of it this way. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, it becomes your employee. The best thing about money is that it works for you 24 hours a day and can work for generations. Keep your day job. Be a great hardworking employee, but keep building that asset column. As your cash flow grows, you can indulge in some luxuries. An important distinction is that rich people buy luxuries last, while the poor and middle class tend to buy luxuries first. The poor and the middle class often buy luxury items like big houses, diamonds, furs, jewelry, or boats because they want to look rich. They look rich, but in reality, they just get deeper in debt on credit. The old money people, the long-term rich, build their asset column first. Then, the income generated from the asset column buys their luxuries. The poor and the middle class buy luxuries with their own sweat, blood, and children's inheritance. A true luxury is a reward for investing in and developing a real estate asset. For example, when my wife Kim and I had extra money coming in from our apartment houses, she went and bought herself her Mercedes. It didn't take any extra work or risk on her part because the apartment house bought her the car. She did, however, have to wait 4 years while the real estate investment portfolio grew and began generating enough extra cash to pay for the car. But the luxury, the Mercedes, was a true reward because she proved she knew how to grow her asset column. That car now means a lot more to her than simply another pretty car. It means she used her financial intelligence to afford it. Instead, most people impulsively go out and buy a new car or some other luxury on credit. They may feel bored and just want a new toy. Buying a luxury on credit often causes a person to eventually resent the luxury because the debt becomes a financial burden. After you've taken the time and invested in and built your own business, you're now ready to learn the biggest secret of the rich. The secret that puts the rich way ahead of the pack. Okay, that's it for lesson number 3. Now on to the study session. So I'm going to skip the summary since I just read it. You can always watch it again, or if you really want, you can buy the book, which I suggest. It's always good to have handy and actually make notes in it, so you can just flip it open instead of having to find this on YouTube and it becomes kind of a pain in the butt. Anyway, so buy the book and then write in it, highlight stuff that you really identify with or can learn from, and use it as your textbook. Okay, so we'll go to what Robert is saying, and then we'll go to additional questions. Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself, what is Robert saying in this quote? Okay, we've read that a few times. Okay, here's the first. To become financially secure, a person needs to mind their own business. So, essentially this is, you're putting money to work, which is your own business, because working for somebody else is not going to give you financial security, as I found out when I got laid off. Good thing I had my own business, which is real estate investments, so that was actually helping us pay for all our expenses, like taxes and the like. So that was really helpful because my own business helped us. It's not like I couldn't have gone and got another job or filed for COVID employment, which I never actually got any money from the government. So screw them. I paid all my taxes for unemployment and they gave me 0. So F the government. Second, the rich focus on their asset columns while everyone else focuses on their income statements. That's true to an extent, but I think if you're focusing on your asset column, it's also important to focus on your income statements, because having a higher income statement means you can buy more assets, which is why I'm trying to focus so much on my income statement right now, because again, I've mentioned this before, but if you're self-employed, you need a few years, but by a few I mean 3 to 4 years of tax returns before your mortgage broker is going to say, hey, I believe that you can pay off our mortgage that we agreed to give you. So it's also very important to grow that as well. And I agree, it's bad to focus on just your income statement, because otherwise, as soon as your income statement goes to 0, your life essentially gets put on hold, because there's nothing else that's going to provide you lifestyle expenses. Financial struggle is often directly the result of people working all their lives for someone else. Many people simply have nothing at the end of their working days to show for their efforts. Basically, you're trading your time for dollars, and nothing past that. You don't build a business. It's not going to pay off dividends after you finally sit on your hands and let the cash. It's not like growing crops where you spend all this time sowing the seeds and then you just sit back and wait for it, the crops to grow and then wait for harvest season. That's obviously the very oversimplified version of farming, but that's essentially what it is, right? Even in real estate, we call it growing your seed. So essentially, while business might not be immediate, just the act of getting yourself out there is, having patience, and eventually that'll turn into more than just, putting the time in and getting a certain dollar out of it. One of the main reasons net worth is not accurate is because you simply say, so when you sell something, like you sell your stocks, let's say I have, actually when I bought my real estate from my brokerage account, yes, I had to sell stocks. So that meant I paid a 15% capital gains tax on it. So essentially that made my real estate 15% more expensive. Well, that's the reality of the fact. The fact that I've owned the real estate made up for the fact that I had to pay the 15% extra penalty on it. So it was in the effort to diversify my assets, it was well worth paying that extra penalty to the government. However, because I was married, or I still am married, but because of the way that taxes are filed jointly, we were never into that income bracket where it really made us penalized for paying more taxes. So it was actually not as bad as it could have been if we were in a higher income bracket. Okay. Once a dollar goes into it, never let it come out. Think of it this way. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, it becomes your employee. The best thing is it works for you 24 hours a day and can work for generations. Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty simple statement there. Basically, never sell your assets. And especially with real estate, you can hand it down from generation to generation and nobody's going to pay taxes on it. Because the cost basis gets transferred. So let's say if you bought a house for, let's say, $1,000, and by the time you kick the bucket and your kids have it and now it's worth $100,000, they don't have to pay any tax on it. And if they do happen to sell, let's say the city zoned it up to 9 stories or whatever, and the developer came along and said, hey, want to buy it? They said, okay, fine. And then they sold it. They only have to sell it on the cost basis that they inherited at, and not the cost that you bought it. So that's pretty good, unless Biden has anything to do with it. And it works 24 hours a day. Yes, that's the whole point of investing. Is as Buffett says, Warren Buffett, he says, you can only get financial freedom when you make money while you sleep. Because otherwise, you can only make money while you are awake and working, which means you can never really take a break. Like like a real estate agent, if they don't work, they don't get paid. Right? It's not like you can take, no one's going to pay for your vacation or anything. It's 100% commission based. So if you don't work, you don't get paid. Which is why it's such a great idea to become also an investor in real estate as a real estate agent. So you can make money while you're on vacation. Okay. An important distinction is that rich people buy luxuries last, while poor and middle class tend to buy luxuries first. Yes, very true. As I said before, rich people will buy a Toyota Corolla or like whatever Toyota that needs very little maintenance. It can even be a used car, especially when it's hit the depreciation curve, because they don't want to spend more money on a vehicle that gets them only from point A to point B. They're not trying to show off or be a target, driving an expensive Porsche or whatever. It's like, and then if you do wreck it or somebody dings you in the parking lot, it's like, oh, who cares? I don't have to pay $80,000 to get my door repaired. And the fact that they buy luxuries last, that's what I was saying. There was this guy in Seattle, I forget, I think he's like a first-generation Vietnamese immigrant, came in with his brothers and family, I guess, and he became a real estate agent, and then he became a real estate investor. And he said he owns like Rolls Royce and all the knickknacks that rich people have, but everything that he's bought that was a toy came from his real estate investment. So he said, all your money that you make from your job go directly into buying assets. You can only buy toys once your assets are actually generating enough money to buy those assets, from assets to buy luxuries. So that's pretty much the idea behind it. Is you actually then achieve financial freedom. So if you stop working, you can actually still live, assuming you don't have to buy another car every year, right? The poor and middle class buy luxuries with their own sweat, blood, and children's inheritance. And a lot of millennials, especially on the internet, complain that all the boomers are spending all their inheritance on dumb stuff. And the boomers like, it's my money. I should be able to do what I want with it. So then you have a duality, the fact that the boomers are largely the middle class, and they didn't think about this stuff when they were working. They didn't really necessarily buy stuff that would help them live the lifestyle they wanted, and at the same time give their children inheritance. So they're trading, they only want one option, or they've only thought that far that they can only have one or the other, not both. So yes, 100% correct. All right, additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter. Okay. Question 1. How does it, how do they change your thoughts and mindset? What is your profession and what is your business? How do they differ? So I guess my profession now is real estate, and the reason I got into this is because I really love real estate investments, and so I want to help people, especially my generation, escape middle class and essentially what he's writing about in this book. And if I can help one person at a time, that's more than enough for me. But obviously that's not going to pay my bills, so I have to help more than one person at a time. But okay, so what is your profession? Okay, I'm a broker agent now. What is your business? What pays me when I'm sleeping is my stocks and my real estate investments. But they're quite similar because my profession will allow me to constantly look at real estate every day and look for bargains, become intimately familiar with the neighborhoods as I explore them more, show people around and get listings, and so it all kind of feeds off itself. So I'll know which areas where something is a good buy and where something would seem like a good buy, but in fact it's not. All right. 2. What are things you might... with my profession, I won't always have the money to buy another rental or another investment property. And then if I do find one that somebody would benefit from and I can't benefit from it myself because I don't have enough money to buy it at the moment, I can always suggest it to that other person and say, hey, great deal right over here. I buy it for them, or not I buy it. They pay me to buy it, I'll help them buy it, and then they get money and I get paid, and they trust me for giving them such good financial advice, which is better for me because then everybody wins. And that's the mark of success, is when people love you because they trust you with their money and your advice, and also that they just like you as a person. So there you go. All right. 2. What are the things you might have counted in your net worth before reading this chapter? Oh, I definitely would have counted all my Costco clothes. No, I don't buy anything that's expensive. I mean, my car is used, paid off. I think I've already talked about this. And then I have my investment portfolio, and then I have my real estate. And then my education, which is essentially worthless because I went to school for 8 years. And now I'm in a profession where you only need to graduate high school and pass a test. So sadly, that is no longer, my education is no longer an asset in the direct sense that I get paid for knowing what I know. So, but if it wasn't for my educational trajectory, I would have never got into this business. As they say, real estate finds you, you don't find real estate. So once I realized that architecture was such a vow of poverty profession, unless you're like one of the very few world famous architects, like you can be the best real estate agent in your city, like a small city, like here, like Gig Harbor, and make just as much money as like being a world-renowned architect. I'm talking like Renzo Piano or something. Like you can make $1.5 million as a real estate agent if like you're top of your game in a small town. And if you're in Seattle and you have a whole team and everything, you can make 7 figures. Like, it's insane when people really scale it and fine-tune their business. So more than 7 figures. I don't think 8. Well, probably Sirhan makes 8 figures or more, but he owns his own brokerage now in New York. So he's essentially just the CEO now. Well, he also does brokerage still, but so he is also getting money on the side from running his corporation, and then getting money from that, plus on the commission he's getting from the multi-million-dollar deals. Okay. Again, assets. I don't count anything in assets because I don't buy anything besides food, utilities, and investments, really. What is a time you bought a luxury? I never bought a luxury. Did I buy a luxury? Most expensive thing I ever bought was a pair of glasses in Europe for $1,000. So that was kind of stupid. But I couldn't find a good pair of glasses here, let alone Costco. I mean, they all look pretty atrocious. But I got these. My wife, these are from Kazakhstan. I think they cost like, $30. So, yeah. Go figure. Okay, let me just read the whole question. Maybe you can answer it for yourself. What is a time you bought a luxury that your cash flow couldn't justify? What is a time you did so when it could justify the purchase? Compare how you felt in the two situations, both at the moment of purchase and later. I mean, I wore those glasses for like 3 years every day, so that's, $1 a day for those glasses. Compared to contacts, how much does that cost? Probably also $1 a day, so I guess it's a wash. But of course, if I bought a cheaper pair of glasses, that also would have been far ahead. But for me at the time, it was like, oh, well, I have to wear glasses. At least it should somehow be something to talk about or something attractive, not just like a utilitarian kind of I'm far-sighted or nearsighted kind of thing. Have there been people in your family who spent their whole lives working for someone else only to end up with nothing? What would you advise them if you could? In my family, let's see, my dad was in the military, and then they paid for his medical education, but he also bought real estate, but he lost most of it in his divorces. So I guess that's just as bad as working for somebody else. Let's see, what else? My mom worked, but she worked at a hospital as a secretary. My brother is a city planner in California, but he buys investment property with his money. My other brother is a general manager at Toyota down in California, and so he's also buying investment property, but at least he was a salesman for the longest time, so he's paying his own commission. And then my sister is a biology teacher, but her husband has his own company in concrete engineering. So I mean, they all are pretty smart, I guess, when it comes to think about it. And here I was, the well-educated, dumbass getting 2 master's degrees, and now working commission-based with very little barrier to entrance. So go figure, right? Okay, well that's it for lesson 3. Let's go halfway through lesson 4, and then it's time for me to get my day on and start getting some work done. Okay, that's it for now.